Guys, we are now diving into Striker, code of the Juggernaut subclass. It recently got a buff with update 2.2.1, and it's nasty. It was already approaching nasty beforehand. It had a super that lasted so long in both PvP and in PvE. But now, with these changes, code of the Juggernaut has become one of the deadliest neutral game subclasses and probably overall one of the deadliest subclasses in the game. So first up, let's go over the buffs that we see here. It got a frontal assault buff where the duration was increased from 10 seconds to 16 seconds. You also now see the timer displayed on your HUD. It also received a buff where it now increases weapon damage. This is something entirely new to frontal assault, 25% in PvE and 20% in PvP. And this is pretty substantial, as this only requires you to strike an enemy with your melee, not get a kill. It instantly reloads your weapon though, and increases both weapon stability and weapon damage. You've seen some crazy stuff maybe from Destiny Fun Police or Cool Guy. I recently had the pleasure of trying out Sturm and Drain with frontal assault, considering that it lasts for a whole 16 seconds. And yes, you can land the whopping 204 crit damage on an opponent when stacking it with Sturm Overcharge. Again, that is just one example of the nastiness that Frontal Assault received with 2.2.1. Now moving on to the other buff, probably even more substantial than Frontal Assault. Knockout got a buff duration increase from 3 seconds to 5 seconds, and the buff is no longer disabled after a melee attack. It also states here that in addition to breaking a shield, buff now triggers once you deal 60% damage to a target. Any damage dealt after the 60% will refresh the timer. Increases bonus melee damage from 25% to 60%. I know we're dropping a lot of values here, but let's talk about Knockout. Critically wounding an enemy or breaking their shields increases your melee range and damage. Now, originally it used to be that melee damage was only 25%. Of course, now it does 60%. So by itself, and say something like Crucible, after triggering Knockout, you can do 160 melee damage to an opponent, making this a very ideal melee for those that like to just hand cannon body shot an opponent and then follow up with a melee. And this is not a hard thing to do, considering that the melee range that you get from Knockout rivals the range of something like Syntheseps for Titans, meaning you can reach opponents at great lengths with your melee launch. So now that we got an idea of both of these buffs, let's talk about the exotics that pair best with it. And the first one I want to bring up is Worm God Caress. Now Worm God, it has a perk on it called Burning Fist. Melee kills increases melee damage for a period of time. Additional kills extends the duration and increases the effects. Up until now, Worm God Caress has never really been an exotic that many Titans made. There was a few out there. Some did it with either the Burning Maul on Middle Tree for Sunbreaker. I've even run across a few players, even before Sandbox 2.2.1, that utilize Worm God Caress with Bottom Tree Striker, and they did it so well. So I can only imagine what those players can do in this current Sandbox. But just going into PvE right now, Knockout plus Burning Fist allowed us to do melee damage of 3,543. Now in Burning Fist times 2, we have 6,894, times 3, 9,383, times 4, 11,873, and times 5, 14,362, allowing us here to easily kill Greg in 3 melee hits. Yeah, kind of sounds impressive, doesn't it? Not really, because things get taken to a whole nother level. You see guys, if you have the shotgun last man standing with the perk 1-2 punch, this now increases our melee damage with Burning Fist times 5 substantially. So with something like Knockout, Burning Fist times 5 and 1-2 punch, we can now kill Greg in 1 hit at 43,085. And there's a variety of things we can do with this. You can kill ships, you can kill majors with ease. Sometimes you need the shotgun, sometimes you don't. But I even took it up into one of the forges here and watch the health of this boss. I meleeed him for 647,879. One melee hit literally took away 1 bar of his health. That means if I could have got the blueberries to actually answer my messages, this would have been a beautiful thing to show you, as I would have easily killed this boss in 3 melee hits. Boys, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. It's nasty. Now moving on to the second exotic, Syntheseps. How does its damage compare to Burning Fists on Worm God Caress? There really is no comparison. Knockout plus biotic enhancements allows us here to have a total whopping melee damage of 5,745. Even biotic enhancements plus knockout and 1-2 punch only increases that melee damage to 17,234. Now granted, that's not bad, as there really doesn't require any setup other than having the appropriate amount of enemies around you, so that's 3 or more, to actually activate bionic enhancements. But if you already have 3 or more enemies around you, you might as well be using Worm God Caress and activate Burning Fist, as you're gonna get more bang for your buck and total damage there. Overall, guys, Worm God Caress may have never even crossed your mind pre 2.2.1, but with the most recent Sandbox changes, guys, it is a go-to exotic for Titan mains. Now, the only downside to Worm God Caress, which is the thing that hurts my heart, and I know Bungie did it purposely, but still, it does not activate while you are in your super, which is so terrible, considering that you're going to be shoulder charging enemies, which is essentially your melee there on bottom tree, while you're in your super to extend it even further. I mean, you see here how long my super is lasting. It's insane how long it lasts. And with every melee kill, you extend the duration even longer and trigger health regeneration. Unfortunately, all of this synergy does not apply to Burning Fist on Worm God Caress. They specifically made it to where Burning Fist will only activate with the neutral game on Code of the Juggernaut. Super unfortunate, but it's Bungie's way of making sure things stay balanced. However, Bionic Enhancements, on the other hand, does have the ability to activate while you're within your super, and it also grants you the ability to one-shot other supers when Knockout and Bionic Enhancement are both activated. Again, there's some setup there that's going to be required. Knockout normally will be already set up anyways after you get the first initial melee kill. So the way I look at it, guys, if you want to take advantage of the super to the fullest of its potential, you might want to swap to Syntheseps right before you're going to pop your super. You'll get that buff there in total damage, and you'll also be allowed to one-hit other supers, which is pretty nasty. Now granted, most supers can get above you or put distance around you or do some weird crazy stuff with their damn staffs. I know there's all kinds of crazy things they can do. So you're not always going to win those fights just because Bungie and hit registration takes a crap on Physics 101. But for those times that you do land the melee hit, while both of those perks are active, you will get the kill. But for the most part, and for the rest of your matches, I would highly advise to use Worm God Caress, because as soon as you get one kill going and Burning Fist is activated, you're now hitting 296 damage per melee hit, and that will just only increase with every melee hit afterward. So overall, neutral game, Worm God Caress is the way to go. Well, fellas, that is Code of the Juggernaut. We will be continuing to cover our other subclasses, as well as Arbalest as soon as it drops tomorrow, if it drops. We still don't know if it actually drops tomorrow or if there's like a time-gated quest. Hopefully, it drops tomorrow, though, and we'll be reviewing it as soon as it does. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.